We begin our South African adventure with a pre-trip to the Okavango Delta in northern Botswana. Our fellow travelers are Fred, John and Ginny, Ira and Betsy, and we are Phoebe and Saul. This 12-seater took us from Mon to the Delta, and I even got the fly right seat. Isaac and Mr. T picked us up, loaded our stuff, and off we went. And before we even had time to think about it, we had our first sighting, these giraffe. Then a troop of baboons, these tsebe, part of the antelope family, our first African elephant, a huge termite mound, a hippo grazing out of the water, zebra. Then this huge male lion appeared from out of nowhere. He just walked around the Jeep, couldn't care less that we were there, and kept on going. In the meantime, Ginny was sure she was going to get eaten. No sooner was the lion out of sight than the Jeep bogged down in the mud, right down to the frame. Of course, our guides had been there before, and they knew how to deal with it. But with storm clouds gathering and dark approaching, I have to admit we were a little nervous. And even though it seemed to take longer, it really was very soon that we were on our way again, bouncing our way over the delta, making a beeline for camp. Camp Kanakara is on an island, and these Makoro are the only way to get there. And we find John and his staff waiting for us with a welcome. We're being welcomed to the camp. Since we were later than we should have been getting in, we quickly dropped our stuff off, got back to dinner and the campfire. We got up every morning at 5 a.m., and by 6 a.m. we had had breakfast and were out looking for game. And there were lots and lots of animals to see. Even though these waterbok were close, they were still hard to see. A group of zebra are called a dazzle. These are jackals. We fell in love with the elephants, especially the babies. Cape buffalo generally stayed together in large herds for mutual protection. They were easily spooked, but settled quickly too. These are wattled cranes. Termites are vital to the ecology of the delta. These strange-looking mushrooms grow on the termite mounds. They are the only mushrooms in the area safe to eat, and in fact are quite tasty. Mr. T showed us how the locals would set a snare for small game. And then demonstrated how effective it would be. Game drive the next morning starts out with a bang again. A female kudu. We are told that seeing so many baby elephants is highly unusual, and that these babies were only about a month old. Our guides have spotted lion tracks and are following them. And sure enough, we found a pride of 9 lions. Their ribs being visible was a good indication that they hadn't eaten in a few days. This is our first sighting of warthogs when they were not running. That afternoon, instead of the jeeps, we took the Mokoros for a game drive. We did come across a hippo in the river, but he decided to take a walk or a swim. The water was quiet and relaxing, and as evening approached, we were heading back to the camp. The next morning, we're greeted by another beautiful sunrise and are off for a game drive. And very quickly, our first sighting is the very rare sable antelope. Then a lone elephant decides to check us out. This is a ground hornbill. This leg of a baby giraffe is evidence that the lions are not hungry any longer. And sure enough, when we find the pride, you can't see their ribs any longer. And they're behaving like they're sated. But watch. Lions are opportunistic hunters and will not pass up an opportunity for another kill. But grazing animals are always watchful and alert, and these wildebeest got away. Oh well, all in a day's work. Next we went on to a nearby lake just loaded with hippos. That's what they sound like when they talk to each other. It's not easy to catch these hippos with their mouths open. Just as the sun was beginning to set, we came across these lion at a waterhole. The perfect finish for a glorious day. It's Monday morning, February 8th. We've left Camp Kanakara and we're on our way to the airport and back to Johannesburg to begin the main trip. You would think that we've seen enough animals by now, but wait, you won't believe what happened next. A sighting of cheetah, which, unlike most predators, hunt in the daytime rather than at night. Then, as we were driving along the track to the runway, the Jeep was scaring up all kinds of insects, and out of nowhere came these carmine bee catchers. No way to catch them on video from a bouncing Jeep, but I got lucky with these stills. As we say goodbye now to the Okavango Delta, we are wondering what comes next. Will anything we see from here on out top what we've seen this past week? The main trip begins on February 9th with our arrival in the area of the Kruger National Park. Thompson, our trip leader, met us in Johannesburg and will stay with us all the way through the end of the trip. New travelers that have joined us now for the main trip are Blair and Wendy, Sharon and Philip, Charlie, Stephen and Carol. We're now 14 in all. A couple of camp vehicles picked us up at the gate of Kruger National Park to take us directly to Buffalo Rock Camp. We got checked in, had some lunch, had some instructions and some rest, and then we were off on the first game drive of Kruger National Park. Along the way, we learned about the marula tree. Leopards love to hide in it, and elephants love the fruit from it, which is very high in vitamin C. This very prominent granite dome is called Shabani. This lake is man-made, been here about 40 years, and its purpose was to entice animals, and it works. These elephants are juveniles, teenagers, and like all teenagers, they love to play. Until they don't. This is how rhinos mark their territory and is an indication that they are nearby. This is called the escarpment. Isn't it spectacular? This view got a lot of attention. This is a vervet monkey. There were almost always antelopes of various kinds around. Another group spotted these leopards and directed us to them. We were told they're just under 2 years old, a male and a female. Many of the animals we saw in Kruger and the other national parks were far enough away that telephoto was very helpful. Another warthog. Now, as evening is approaching, it's time to get back to camp. Next morning, February 10th, started with a game walk, this time with a guide and a guard. While on our walk, we did spot white rhino tracks and then soon some rhino in the distance. It was an interesting walk, but we didn't really see a lot else. And now we're out for our afternoon game drive. And this is a martial eagle. It appears that he was trying to get to this rock monitor lizard and we interrupted him. A white rhinoceros but without horns. February 11th, and we're out for an all-day game drive. In fact, we've taken lunch with us. It's kind of overcast and cooler than usual, but still very nice. And as usual, there's plenty of game to see, like this 4 or 5 year old kudu. We are literally surrounded by elephants. Since it's early in the morning, this herd of Cape buffalo is still bedded down from the nighttime, sleeping but still alert. Some of them literally standing guard. This bird is called a rolla. It migrates here from Europe to escape the cold. This is called a clip springer. This is a leopard tortoise. Marabou storks. It is rare to get a shot this good of a hippo grazing. These are weaver bird nests. Hippos will sometimes eat the low-hanging ones. This is called a batuela eagle. Of course, baboons are everywhere, and they'll eat anything. Another lion sighting, but this one came with a traffic jam. This is a male miala, kind of rare. Egyptian geese. Leopard-faced vultures. This is another Baranus or rock monitor lizard. But this one has lost his tail somewhere. Here we have a baby vervet monkey nursing. This Cape turtle dove is perched in a russet bush willow tree. We found watching the way elephants use their trunk to eat is just fascinating. And did you see how they brush the dirt off before putting it in their mouth? They have to protect the enamel on their teeth. Not sure if this is one of the leopards we saw yesterday or if it's another. We found some pretty playful warthogs. This rhino was just lying here keeping cool. Kruger has not disappointed, and we leave here in the morning. This is José Carlos Alves, a professional tourist guide for Eco Africa Safaris, shares his philosophy as to why so many people are drawn to see these animals.
It's not necessarily having to see the wild elephant, but it's being the space that it occupies. And so coming to Kruger Park, where we're standing at the moment, and even seeing a distant lion, it really brings out that old emotion of human the hunter, going back to the early Stone Age and prior Stone Age, the human evolution in coexistence with these creatures. So this is not a game we are doing the tourist guiding. It's really we are reenacting many times an old fundamental process of survival and this relationship we have with the deeper part of our connection with old nature. So this is a critical part of keeping ourselves in balance and stimulated and excited and alive and enthusiastic about who we are as humans and
It's
animals.
February 13th. We have breakfast at Buffalo Rock Camp and then depart for Wenge National Park by way of Victoria Falls. This is Sable Sands Lodge, and our accommodations here are very nice. We check in, drop our bags in our cabins, and we're off on a game drive. Today we'll stay on grounds near the lodge outside the park. Our first sighting is this net lark sitting on top of a termite mound. This is a blue or brindled wildebeest. This gray-crowned crane is the national bird of Uganda. This antelope is shown in slow motion so we can appreciate how high he's jumping. This is a female Tenley bustard. The male bustard is the heaviest flying bird in southern Africa, weighing up to 20 kilograms. A Mirabeau stork. There is a 1-month-old baby zebra in the background. This lone male lion killed this Cape buffalo, then dragged it about 30 meters from the kill spot to where it is now, even though it weighs about 4 or 5 times what he does. Now we're told he's guarding his kill and hoping to attract some females. All he's attracted so far are these vultures. Now watch this, and you'll see how an elephant makes it known that he does not want to be bothered. Elephants can be destructive, but cleverly so. Here they have located an underground water pipe and broken it so as to provide themselves with a source of fresh water. This is a greeting ritual between elephants, not a fight. We've spent quite a lot of time watching these elephants. Now it's about time to call it a day. It is now February 14th. The lounge area of the Sable Sands Lodge looked out onto this open field, and we never knew what we were going to see there. Or for that matter, in the camp behind our cabins. Or around the pool. After a while, we tore ourselves away from camp and went out for another game drive. We went by to check on our lonely lion. We found that he's still waiting for female company. He's dragged the carcass farther away from where it was before. He's eaten a little of it, and it smells worse than it did yesterday. These are yellow-billed hornbills, also known as the flying banana and zazu in The Lion King. This is a shaft-tailed pink whydah. This is a woolly-necked stork. This elevated platform provided an excellent view of this man-made lake and the game it attracted. An African fish eagle. This crocodile is watching the fish eagle and waiting. The croc tried for the eagle but missed. Now he's trying to sneak into position for another try. And so another spectacular day comes to a close. It is February 15th, and the first thing we see in the morning is the damage done by the elephants that came through the afternoon before. Trees knocked down and partially eaten, footprints in all the paths, and all the water the elephants had drunk from the pool being replaced. Fortunately, nothing too serious. These painted dogs were seen early this morning in front of the lounge. After breakfast, we will leave Sable Sands Lodge, destination Victoria Falls. As our bus arrived in Victoria Falls, we had a quick tour of the town. We'll see the nice part later. Then went straight to where we were expected for lunch, and were treated to a portrayal of the story of Dr. David Livingstone.
At the age of 19, I realized it was possible to reconcile the two great passions of my life, faith and science.
It was a very well done portrayal. Then came the tour of Mosi Atonya, the native name for Victoria Falls, which translates to smoke that thunders. Nearly twice as high as Niagara, as well as 1.5 times as wide, generating 3 times as much water over its edge. Is our day in the life of a Victoria Falls community. We stopped at a local supermarket, then a flea market to get some food to bring along. Ira really got into the welcome dance. And then Wendy. And Blair. And even Thompson. Headman of the village introduced us to some of his young women, and we introduced ourselves. Then the young men of the village put on a show for us.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you all to Jablani village. Jablani means enjoyment.
There was, of course, much more. We were shown their garden area, their cooking hut or kitchen, where our ladies pitched in to help their ladies prepare the afternoon meal. These are millipedes. They will be part of lunch. A well or borehole that is 70 meters deep from which they pump water manually. We saw their social club, their butcher shop, and their grocery. Then we washed, shared their lunch, said our thanks, and were on our way. Next stop, the Jabulani Primary School, where we met the founder of the school and attended classes with students who accompanied us. This classroom and others were donated by Grand Circle Foundation. Then, after lunch at Lola's, we were free to explore the nicer parts of Victoria Falls, like the back patio at the Victoria Falls Hotel, where we could see and hear the smoke that thunders. Baboons roamed freely over the perfectly manicured lawns, as did the warthogs, who we were told did the manicuring. February 17th was a day for optionals that we chose not to take. So we and others in our group just relaxed and did a little shopping. Dinner that night was catered on an open helicopter pad. February 18th, we travel overland to Impalila Island, surrounded by the waters of both the Zambezi and the Chobe rivers. The 700-year-old baobab tree shelters the lodge that we're staying at. We settle into our cabin with a view of the river and then join the rest of the group in the lounge for our orientation. And now we're about to go out by boat to explore the area around our island. First bird we saw was a blue-cheeked bee-eater. There are plenty of hippos in the river, and papyrus grows all around. This is a female cormorant. This is a common squacco heron. This baby crocodile was just recently hatched. This is a weaver nest. This is an African jacana, or Jesus bird, or lilywalker. A Goliath heron. And as the day drew to a close, we stopped for a glass of wine and watched the magnificent sunset. It's the morning of February 19th, and we're going to walk up to the village, learn more about the island of Impalila.
So Impalila means very far, far away, or end of everything.
The villages are all bordered by these fences made of common reeds. And the first village we visit is called Kamavozo, or place of many baobabs. Under their stools is a hollowed-out area used as a mortar and pestle for pounding out sorghum. Their local bar is called a shabin. The ox cart is their local means of transportation. And this is the Impalila Combined School. And they have a clinic for local medical care. And later, when we were relaxing on the porch of our cabin, we noticed that the monkeys, unlike in the zoo, were watching us. February 20th is the day of the long walk to the 2,000-year-old baobab tree. It took Stephen and I longer to get there, though, because we made a wrong turn and walked an extra couple of miles. Afternoon found us on the water again, and we spotted this purple heron. This one's called a water thickney, and another squacco heron. And this is a glossy ibis. This crocodile looked to be about 8 or 10 feet long. The moorhen also walks on lily pads. African darters are large cormorants. This is a coppery tail cuckoo. And as the day draws to a close, a glass of wine and a magnificent sunset. It is February 21st. We have left Impalila Island and traveled by boat and by road and through a couple of border stops to Elephant Valley Lodge, just outside of Chobe National Park in Botswana. We check into the nicest accommodations we've had so far. Then off we go. For what? A game drive. And once again, game is plentiful both inside and outside of the park itself. What is there to be said? We see a marabou stork, another leopard tortoise, tried to get this bird in flight, but he wouldn't cooperate. February 22nd. First time this has happened, but it didn't stop us. This elephant has been dead long enough that there's nothing left of it but hide, tendons, and bone. It's now up to these jackals to finish the job. We did quit for a while, but then went back out after the weather cleared and saw these beautiful giraffe and these banded mongoose I finally got a stork in flight. And after dark, we got this owl in the searchlight. It's March 23rd, and this will be our last day in the bush. And our first sighting of the day is this group of hyenas. They seemed curious about us and kept coming back to watch us. This is a spur-winged goose. These birds are sacred ibis. This bird is called an open-billed stork because the curves of his bill do not match, therefore will not close. This is an adaptation for handling freshwater mussels and snail shells. African fish eagles. Kind of looks like these giraffe are doing some kind of dance, but we're told that they're just juveniles fooling around. Someone spotted this pair of lions lying in the heavy grass. We must have spent a half hour to an hour just watching them. It wasn't until the female raised her head that we could see the tracking collar on her. He seems to have something on his mind, but she doesn't seem interested. Giraffe have very long and rough tongues, which they use to reach out and pull the tree branches into their mouths. We will be spending the rest of the day on the Chobe River, watching animals from the boat. We've watched these elephants before, but from land. Now we'll be watching them from the water. Meanwhile, there's lots of hippos grazing. We spot a kingfisher and a wire-tailed swallow. And by now you know how the day ends. It is February 24th and we are leaving Elephant Valley. Fred, Phil, Sharon, Steve, and Carol were leaving the group, while the rest of us are going on to Cape Town for our post trip. Cape Town is a wonder of diversity. In its location, in its physical settings, and in its people. There are some really nice areas, and some areas that would be hard-pressed to qualify to be called slums. We could also see evidence that the government is now starting to provide more and better housing. But the challenges and magnitude of the problem are huge. But the people that we spoke to, who were classified as blacks and coloreds, were expressing hope for a better future. Now that they again have the right to vote, work at what and where they are able to, and live where and how they can afford, without legal restrictions. We visited the Kirstenbosch National Botanical Gardens in Cape Town, and found them to be different than any we'd seen before. Not only beautiful, but practical as well. Truly able to be used and enjoyed by the community. Table Mountain is one of Cape Town's most dramatic natural landmarks. And if the clouds cooperate, from the top of Table Mountain you can see Robben Island, where Nelson Mandela was imprisoned. The top of Table Mountain is really a park where families come and spend the day. These furry little creatures are called dassies. And believe it or not, their closest genetic relative is the elephant. The day ended with our home-hosted meal. Always a good and interesting experience. Angie was our hostess. She and her daughter were delightful. The meal was delicious. It is February 26th, and this morning we are traveling along the coast road out toward the Cape of Good Hope. And a beautiful ride it was, too. We are at the Cape of Good Hope, looking out across the water, and somewhere out there, way far away, is South America. But much closer is this huge gathering of Cape Cormorant. We're walking up to the top of this mountain to visit the lighthouse that is no longer in use because it was too high to be effective. And the view from the top is always worth the climb. On our return trip to Cape Town, we stopped along the False Bay coastline for a chance to see and hear the penguins at Boulder's Beach.
Okay, we get the point.
That night, it was Thompson's chance for learning and discovery. 6 of us decided to take Thompson out for a lobster dinner, his first ever. On our last day in Cape Town, some of us went to the wine country while others did other things. Then on the following day, we began our long journey home.